1,000 Layers of Hearts. Chapter 1, Behind the Rancid Gate. One afternoon in the late summer of 2010, a cool breeze blew through the empty streets, and the leaves of the plane trees on both sides of the streets swayed slightly, as if whispering the news that summer was coming to an end. With the collar of her black coat held high, Ms. Lee hurried through the bustling streets to her boyfriend's apartment complex. It was his birthday, and she was going to surprise him. She pulled a bunch of metal keys out of her bag and gently inserted them into the door keyhole, opening the familiar door with ease. However, the moment she stepped through the door, an unbearable rancid smell hit her nose. It was the smell of dead rot, so oppressive that it was hard to breathe. Lee Paishan's heart jumped suddenly. She immediately turned around to confirm that the door behind her was closed, and then cautiously moved in. Her eyes quickly scanned the living room, and it was unusually quiet, except for the sound of her own rapid breathing echoing through the air. She followed the smell to find the closet, and the moment she opened the door, the sight in front of her made her heart freeze instantly. There, lying was the corpse of a decomposing male, with a distorted face, as if an innocent being ravaged by time and fear. It's he? Lee Paishan's heart seemed to be stabbed by a sharp knife, and the man in front of her was her boyfriend, Shen Weixuan. She immediately picked up her phone and called the police for help. As a profiler and biology expert in the city's criminal investigation brigade, Lee Paishan's intuition told her that this was a well-planned murder, not a simple death. Chapter 2, Subtle Clues. When the police arrived, they began a detailed investigation of the scene. Lee used her expertise to gather evidence with technicians. She carefully observed the extent of the decay of the corpse, deducing the time of death from the insect colonies on the corpse. Based on the species of insects at the scene, she determined that the victim had died about 3 days earlier, and that the body had not been disturbed by the outside world during this time, indicating that the killer was extremely ruthless in dealing with the victim after death. During the ensuing interrogation, Lee Paishan discovered the suspect's anomaly. The suspect was a man named Zhang Chenju, who remained surprisingly calm and spoke in a calm tone when answering questions, as if everything had nothing to do with him. However, when talking about how the victim died, Lee Paishan noticed that Zhang Chenju unconsciously touched his neck with his index finger, a small gesture that revealed that he was lying. "You don't seem quite sure how he died, do you?" Lee Paishan asked word by word. A faint bead of sweat appeared on Zhang Chenju's face, but he quickly withdrew his fingers and hid them in his trouser pocket. His eyes flickered for a moment before he whispered, "I really don't know. His death. I really don't know." However, Lee's instincts told her that these were just lies under wrap. She decided to return to the scene and investigate more. Chapter 3, The Secret Spider. Lee Paishan came to Shen Weixuan's apartment again, and this time, she scrutinized every detail with a more precise gaze. She discovers a small detail that has been overlooked. In an inconspicuous corner, there is an unfamiliar long hair. The color of the hair was not like Shen Weixuan's, but the hair color of a certain woman. She then investigated Shen Weixuan's social circle and found that he had recently been in close contact with a woman named Gu Huiyan. Gu Huiyan is an artist who owns a studio adjacent to Mr. Shen's apartment, and the two have attended many social occasions together. Lee Paishan then went to Gu Huiyan's studio and had a conversation with her. In the beginning of the conversation, Gu Huiyan was cautious in her language and her expression was indifferent, but Lee Paishan heard a trace of unnatural nervousness in her tone. Her gaze swept around the studio, finally resting on the painting in the corner. It was a painting with a man's face, and that face was Shen Weixuan. "Is this him?" Lee Paishan asked softly. Gu Huiyan nodded, but then added, "That's a painting of mine, he's just a figure in a painting." At this time, a terrible thought flashed in Lee Paishan's mind. This painting may be hiding some clues that she has not yet noticed. Chapter 4, Uncovering the Truth. After several days of investigation and comparison, Lee Paishan finally discovered the delicate relationship between Zhang Chenju and Gu Huiyan. It turns out that Gu Huiyan is not just Shen Weixuan's friend. She and Zhang Chenju once had a brief relationship, and their relationship has always been in a complicated state. Zhang Chenju has an unknown attachment to Gu Huiyan, and even after Shen Weixuan's death, he still can't let go. When Lee Paishan put all the evidence together, she went to the courtroom again and heard the verdict. Zhang Chenju was sentenced to death because the evidence was conclusive. Hearing this result, a meaningful smile appeared on Lee Paishan's face. This is not the end, but the beginning of another. Chapter 5, The Truth About the Club. As one case after another is solved, Lee Paishan discovers a mysterious club with members from all social classes and backgrounds, and is an ordinary social place on the surface, but there are many secrets hidden behind it. The rules of the club are very strict, and members must abide by certain taboos, which are precisely related to the exchange of souls. Lee discovered that members of the club use technology to exchange their souls with others, sometimes engaging in unethical behavior. And Zhang Chenju was apparently once one of the members of this club. Everything he did may have been part of some kind of revenge plan. But Lee Paishan finally discovered that the real murderer was not Zhang Chenju, but the woman she once thought was harmless, Gu Huiyan. She used the power of this club to control Zhang Chenju's fate, and finally made Shen Weixun her substitute ghost. Li Paishan knows that this case is only the tip of the iceberg, and there are more secrets waiting for her to uncover this mysterious club. And she will continue to go further on this road full of lies and truth. Chapter 6, The Soul Trade. With the revelation of the truth about Gu Huiyan, the doubts in Li Paishan's heart have not completely dissipated. She knows that behind this seemingly successful case, there are actually more mysteries hidden. Why did Gu Huiyan design all this so carefully? How is she connected to the club? And how exactly does that mysterious club work? As she began to dig deeper into the information about the club, she discovered that the organization had been a secret and mysterious existence since its inception, with a worldwide influence and members from different fields, business, art, science, and even some internationally known figures. The purpose of the club is not clear, but based on the testimonies of some former members who have been disbanded, Li learns that it is a secret organization dedicated to soul exchange. This is not a purely spiritual scholarship, but a strange force that transcends the boundaries of science. Through specific rituals and technological devices, members can exchange their souls to achieve a complete rebirth of mind and body. This exchange of souls is not simply a mind-shifting, but also involves the use of other people's memories, abilities, and even the control of fate. Gu Huiyan's participation is the dark link of this soul exchange. Li Paishan discovered that she was not only colluding with the club for Shen Weixun's death, but also fighting for more power and resources for herself. Gu Huiyan once exchanged her soul for the memories and skills of another artistically talented woman, and her ambitions went far beyond that. Shen Weixun's death is actually part of a larger plan for her. Chapter 7, The Scarlet Pact. Through an old member who had left the club, Li obtained a dilapidated diary, written by one of the club's founders, which recorded the club's origins and its true purpose. It turned out that the creation of this club was based on an ancient ritual, the contract of the soul. Each member is required to sign a contract that allows them to exchange their souls on certain conditions. And the ultimate goal of this contract is to use an extreme event to stimulate a mysterious energy that can permanently sublimate the human soul to a state beyond death. According to the diary, Gu Huiyan had already signed this contract, and her goal was not simply power or wealth, but to achieve transcendence of death through soul exchange. Gu Huiyan is actually looking for eternal life. Li Paishan muttered to herself, and a chilling thought appeared in her heart. She couldn't help but wonder if she had inadvertently been involved in this strange organization as well. Chapter 8, The Lost Light. Li's investigation has reached a dead end, and she discovers that the club, which appears to be a gentleman on the surface, is controlled in extreme ways. Each member's memories, thoughts, and even love may be exchanged or controlled. Li Paishan began to wonder if she would be the next target. She knew she had to tread carefully or she would be trapped forever in this soul trade, like all those former members. One night, when Li Paishan was consulting the old case files, she suddenly discovered a shocking fact. She remembers that in the last months of his life, Shen Weixun often looked melancholy and often came into contact with a woman named Lin Qing, who was a close friend of Gu Huiyan. Li Paishan decided to investigate this mysterious Lin Qing in depth, and found that she had mysteriously disappeared a few years ago and left no clues. After her in-depth investigation, she found that Lin Qing was not an ordinary person, her name appeared in that diary, and she became one of the earliest members of the club. Her disappearance was actually due to the fact that she became a victim of the club during a soul exchange. Lin Qing did not die, but was trapped forever in a space of another dimension, unable to return. Chapter 9, The Hidden Truth. As more evidence surfaced, Li Paishan got closer and closer to that terrible truth. In order to achieve her goal of immortality, Gu Huiyan designed a large-scale ritual, and planned to use the life force of Shen Weixun and others to achieve her goal. And all of this is inextricably linked to a long-failed murder case. At this time, Li Paishan finally understood why Shen Weixun was so confused. It turned out that Shen Weixun did not simply die at the hands of others, but inadvertently became part of this mysterious ritual. Gu Huiyan's plan has already connected her dead lover Shen Weixun with the power of death in this world. Li Paishan decided to go to that hidden club and solve the mystery herself. However, what she didn't know was that when she stepped through that door, the outcome of everything would be determined by her choices. Chapter 10, The End of the Covenant. When Li Paishan finally arrived at the heart of the club, she found that it was not the luxury and nobility that was rumored to be, but a hidden underground space. There was a thick fog all around, as if entering a space that was out of touch with reality. The diary in her hand opened, guiding her to the deepest depths. There, she met Gu Huiyan. Gu Huiyan's face seemed to be much older than in the past, and her eyes revealed an indescribable emptiness and gloom, as if all life experiences had become irrelevant. Gu Huiyan's voice was cold and powerful. Li Paishan, you may be able to break all this, but it doesn't matter to me anymore. My soul is no longer part of this world. Li Paishan's heart was shocked, and she immediately understood that Gu Huiyan had been completely swallowed by this ritual and could not turn back. Her death is only a necessary part of a ritual, and her soul will always be trapped in it. Just as she was about to fight back, Li Paishan suddenly felt an abnormal force surging towards her. Her eyes were dark, and her body was uncontrollably pulled into an unknown space. The true test of soul exchange has just begun. Will she be able to escape from this never-ending exchange, or will she be the next casualty? All doubts will only be revealed when she walks through that door.